ahead and call the meeting to order. Live. We can't see the TV. We can't see it there on TV. So that's normal.
Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay. So good evening, everyone, and I want to welcome you to the special call meeting of the City of Bardstown's City Council. It's a special meeting because as a result of the COVID-19 state of emergency in accordance with the opinion 20-05 of the Kentucky Attorney General, we could not have a physical location for the public or the media to view the meeting. So this special meeting will be broadcast for public viewing on Bardstown Cable TV channels 19.2 and 20 and 20.1. So welcome all of you who might be viewing it this evening, and I understand it should be recorded and what's available to be viewed at a later date. So we're going to go on into the agenda. COVID-19 update. Some of you may or may not be aware, but according to Lincoln Trail Area Health, the second case, positive case of a person in Nelson County has been identified, and good news is they're not hospitalized, they're quarantined at home. So that being said, I just want to emphasize that we cannot let our guard down. This is still a very, very serious matter, and the fact that there's not a lot of cases right here that we know of doesn't mean there's not a lot of cases that are going to be here once testing gets wrapped up. And that seems to be the common denominator, that as these other states and cities where the testing has ramped up, the numbers are escalating quite a bit, even within a 24-hour period. So I would say I'm very proud of the response from everyone who was involved with trying to make sure the public health is being taken care of as best they can and the community. I won't go into a lot about what's happened in the past. The media did a pretty good job of reporting on everything that we gave them last week. Day-to-day operations are, I think, going pretty smoothly. We've got our staff adequate enough to operate the city under normal circumstances. There's many people working from home, and a lot of people working from home and then rotating shifts so that we can kind of keep people from having to be as close to each other as possible, trying to protect departments from not ended up having an entire department being quarantined. We started full public works men this week, being cross-trained at the water treatment plant and the sewer plant. So in the event that there is a shortage of personnel at those two plants, we'll have some backup to support them. So I guess the next phase we're working on is some of these steps are being taken is to what do we do in the event that we start having shortages. And so we're working on that. We're also taking a hard look at the financial impact, and we'll probably talk a little bit about that when Aaron gives his report. Budgeting, obviously, it's really throwing a curve to us on how we can possibly budget things and forecasting how we might be affected in this last quarter. But we think that by mid-April and at the end of April, we'll have some data that might tell us how things might go for the next several months until we get this thing under control. I know Jessica shared with me today that to this point, we haven't seen a major change in water usage and sewer treatment and electric and those sort of things, but we know that might change in the next month or so. Of course, the governor announced more closings on Sunday evening that went into effect yesterday. So I think the main message there is, we need everybody to cooperate as best they can. And, the governor set up a tip line for people to call if they think people are not cooperating. I know we get a number of people contact the city as well as the county and police and fire department when they feel like somebody might not be adhering to the social distancing rules. Last evening we had word that there was a large group of young men playing basketball in our city park, and it was happening. The police went there and said, explained to them that the governor's order says you can't gather in large groups, you can't have soccer games and basketball and so forth. And we made that announcement, late last week, but not everybody is, has access to the same media as we do. But once the police explained the situation to the young men, they dispersed in an orderly fashion and cooperated. So that's good. And we just hope that it continues, because when we have to send people to check those things out today, the fire chief and the assistant chief had to go. Again, it was a non-compliance issue that also was a violation of the fire code. So here you're tied up with police, fire chief, assistant chief on a business that appeared to be trying to circumvent the governor's order. But we'd rather have these people, spend their time working on what they do every day, and that's to protect public health and safety. And with that being said, I got a call early this morning from the media wanting to know that we closed the parks, because I guess word got out social media last night. The police shut down the basketball game at the park. We haven't closed the park down, or any of our parks. We made an announcement Friday that parks are open for normal people who want to bring their children and use the equipment, walk the trails or whatever. We are sanitizing all the playground equipment daily, and picnic tables, that sort of stuff, trying to be safe there. So normal, gathering, or you want to take your children to the park and have them play, or that sort of thing is being done. We have heard that Bowling Green has had to close all their parks because they weren't getting cooperation out of their community. We don't want to go there because we know we need some of this as recreational opportunities for our community. Checking those notes. I talked with Jennifer Nolan at the hospital today, and I think the financial support, as we talked about her challenges and challenges in the community, businesses that, unfortunately, I don't think the supplies for health providers and vaccines and respirators and that sort of stuff are going to get in the volumes they need as fast as maybe what the congressional help might be financially for the business community. But she says overall things are going pretty well at the hospital. I think as a result of this second person testing positive, they are changing their visitation policy effective this evening at the hospital. Basically no visitation, with some exceptions that people, obviously, the parents of a newborn child, someone who is gravely ill, that sort of thing. There might be a few exceptions, but she did say it was okay for me to announce that there was no more visitation open at the hospital the way they had been. They previously had one person in a room at a time. That's changed. I just want to finish up by saying we're our second shipment of PPE, personal protective equipment, should be here in the next few days. So that's helping our first responders and helping the hospital and helping some of the doctors short of the respirators. Masks are available, the gowns are available, and that sort of thing. Jennifer did say that some people have approached her about making masks to help supply the hospital, and they've received some, and she said they would welcome that. If any other people or organizations want to do so, please contact the hospital and let them know that you can maybe help them with their supply of masks. None of us in this room, I don't think, has been through a pandemic or the Great Depression, but our country and our state have been through them before. So I think we will get through this. It's going to be a lot of pain yet to come. And, you just have to be prepared for it. But again, I appreciate all the cooperation. You just have to take a deep breath and try to be calm, be not afraid, as the Bible saying goes, and just be safe. So that's the update on that. If anybody has, don't really have open discussion available for that, but I just wanted to give you all an update and perhaps the community out there who's watching this evening. So, okay, we'll move on into the agenda, and Jessica's going to have several items here. She's sitting in front of us here with her back to the camera. Jessica Billentry was our city attorney, city engineer. We'll go through our 150 utility relocation agreement. We don't have to read the entire agreement, but she and I have had a couple of meetings about it, but I'll let you just kind of give an overview of that.
This is a standard utility agreement that the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet does when they're doing capital improvement projects within communities where utilities are affected. So the project in this agreement is addressing is improvements to US 150 at Highway 245, where 245 intersects with US 150 and extends to Parkway Drive, and they're going to be making improvements to at the intersection of Maywood and kind of finishing out their where Leslie Valley Road finishes. So that's the extent of the project. And obviously the city of Bardstown has some water mains, some sewer facilities, sewer force mains. And this agreement basically is an agreement between us, the city, and the state transportation cabinet. And the transportation cabinet is taking on the financial responsibility of any relocation to those utilities that are necessary. And in this particular project, because the scope is pretty small, they are adding some fill material, but they're not drastically changing it's going to affect our utilities. There's not any major relocation. They're going to be adding some additional protection over the utility lines, like some additional casing to provide protection so that to try to minimize breaks during that construction process, while some fill is being added and those driving lanes are being widened. But that's predominantly the extent of what this agreement is. Any inspection, because there is even so little of that, there's not even a separate inspection going to be involved with the transportation cabinet, so they were going to be communicating directly with us when the contractor is in those immediate proximities to our utility lines, and we'll be keeping in contact, and our own forces will be keeping an eye on that work. So that's essentially what this many-page agreement is saying in a nutshell, is that their contractor will be doing some minor things to our utilities, and that they are agreeing to pay for those financially.
So does anyone have any other questions? Jessica, she said this since a typical agreement sure isn't a long agreement for a very small amount of our infrastructure that's not really going to be impacted.
Not a lot, no.
I guess, Jessica, I know that there are a couple of projects that you have going on as far as our infrastructure changes in that particular area. Will that facilitate doing any of that any sooner, or is that going to help us with this particular project?
This particular project is not really coming into where we were planning to make those improvements. We're kind of outside of this disturbance or project scope. There's another project that's coming that is being still in the design phase, so still looking at right-of-way acquisition that the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet is doing along the US 150 corridor from Bardstown all the way to Springfield. And I know there's been some public meetings that have actually had to be postponed due to our current COVID-19 pandemic, but that project again may impact some, but again, I think we're still several years out before we even have a final design for that particular project. So that will not, I'm looking to find ways to lay that additional water main that we're looking at doing for a loop to the Poplar Flat area. And I'm hoping to try to find a route that is going to minimize impact due to that US 150 project, so that we're not duplicating until they completely decide where that route is, I don't know just how much it would be.
Jessica, do we know a time frame of when they plan on doing everything?
The initial plan back when we met at Lincoln Trail and the Transportation Cabinet was to be letting this project, I was thinking it was going to be in the May letting. In light of current circumstance, I'm not sure what the Transportation Cabinet's plans are for the current letting, if that's going to continue if they're as scheduled, or if there's going to be a postponement that may happen maybe in this late summer instead of, I really don't know.
Because they had that final public meeting to set for this month that they postponed due to the virus situation to announce, I guess, their route of choice. They postponed that, so I guess they'll have to have that before they do the letting.
Were you referring to the larger, the bigger corridor project, or just this one we're speaking to? This project again was originally set to let this spring, early summer, but I'm not sure if that's.
Sure. So what you need now, Jessica, you need a motion to put it back out there to sign the agreement to state.
That's correct.
Transportation Cabinet.
To sign, authorize, and signature, and execute the agreement.
No one else has any other questions. I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the execute the agreement between the city and the state.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Shekels to authorize mayor to execute this agreement for the relocation. And a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Williams. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Jessica, let's go to the Bashir Avenue service request.
Yes, on the north side of Brashear, there was a proposal for some condominiums called Chateau Construction. And as part of that development plan, there was a need for approximately 214 feet of sewer main extension to properly serve those condominiums. So this is a service request asking for the city to take in this portion of the, upon completion, the sewer main into our public infrastructure system. And so we need that approval and authorization to go to the Division of Water that we will, in fact, take that in upon its completion and meeting all applicable specifications and guidelines.
Go ahead.
Is that work into like, we haven't improved any of that sewer infrastructure on that street in a while. Have we, we keep talking about as those projects come along, that's something we're gonna look at. Correct?
Yes. I
But
think
will they even affect the portion that we would change anyway?
I've been working pretty diligently these last few months, looking at and evaluating our downtown infrastructure and trying to finalize plans for our phase one of our downtown improvements for water and wastewater, the sewer improvements. Some of the sewer improvements lines actually look pretty good, and we just need to do some rehab or point repair other sections. And in fact, because of some of the improvements in this quadrant of town, this is actually in our phase one area. So there's going to be some water improvements again to try to help improve in this area some fire protection needs, as well as looking at some minor changes or improvements to the sewer in this area. So yes, you're correct, and we have tried to facilitate our timing of that work to minimize any negative impact that this development, to create not having backups or full problems for this.
Are the condominiums just gonna be on the north side this year, or they might be on the south side?
I think there's a phase two plan or there's a plan to have condos on the south side as well. That plan just hasn't been submitted for approval at this time.
Just the north side.
Yeah, this is just the north side.
I think they would actually go two different directions on the sewer, am I correct on that? So the north side, the
Right,
south side.
they would be
not
different, they would
the
not be the same.
Right.
Right, so this would be going to a sewer main in the rear, it would be actually to the north in that alley. And on the south side, there's a sewer main in that alley that are, again, there's some minor improvements that would be.
So our sewer, our alleys are where all our sewers are located downtown.
Most,
Most of them.
most.
Almost.
And that was my question, as far as this sewer main extension is concerned, that's still gonna be maintained on our city right of ways, is that correct?
Well,
The majority of
this
the
This extension is actually within the property, and there are sewer easements dedicated to this because there's not a continuation of an alley currently recorded. It's only running east and west and not north and south on the north side of Brashear. I think it comes down from Beale to the cross alley and stops, and there's not currently a recorded alley that extends all the way to Brashear. So there is an extension, again, to provide service in turn, but that will be within an easement, just like you would have a utility main that would serve a condominium complex in other parks, like within Windsor Gardens.
Any other questions on this particular request? If not, I would ask for a motion then to approve the request from Chateau Construction to be accepted into our infrastructure.
Make that motion.
A motion by Councilman Buckman, second by Councilwoman Hart. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, Jessica, then the next one's Main Street subdivision, similar request for Riggs Boulevard.
Yes, this is the final portion that's currently unplatted. It's in the cul-de-sac of Riggs Boulevard. So they kind of had final platted all of the other lots along Riggs Boulevard, but this portion around the cul-de-sac, they didn't have a final development plan for until this submittal. And they are continuing with similar style buildings, and it is requiring, again, to properly serve that density, a very short extension of the sewer to properly have enough taps and connection points to serve that layout. It's only 64 feet of sewer main extension, but again, that does require for us to take that into the system, to go to the Division of Water application and to go through this process. Again, we've already reviewed the plans, everything is meeting our current standards and specifications, and they'll have to follow all those processes and inspections and testing before we take it in.
And that is a developer's expense.
Yes.
Any other questions on this request? If not, I would ask for a motion then, excuse me, to approve the request by C&Ds to have this last section of Riggs Boulevard's development be accepted into our sewer main extension.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Gibbs, is there a second? Second. Second by Councilman Shekels. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And Jessica, I think that finishes you for this evening, so thank you. And I guess we'll oh, I'm sorry. Forgot. You're in the wastewater treatment plant.
Yes. On the agenda is a professional service agreement proposed by Kentucky Engineering Group for services that I have requested to do a final planning and design and bid for a chemical feed that we have currently at our wastewater treatment facilities. We are trying to look for ways to get rid of our risk management for our really high hazardous chlorine gas at the Town Creek plant. And so we have been trialing this PAA, which stands for peracetic acid, which is a disinfectant before that we must do to the wastewater before we discharge it to our water Kentucky before it discharges to the stream. One other benefit of having going to this essentially peracetic acid or peroxide-based disinfectant is that we also don't have to use chlorine. So we eliminate a second chemical feed. So we currently have been feeding chlorine and then also feeding a dechlorination. More things can go wrong. So this is an attempt, and we've been doing really well from meeting our permit limits at both treatment facilities. And we have some set up already, but I'm needing to move forward with a more permanent setup and equipment in tanks for a better long-term, even pricing for the chemical. You know, the larger you can get that delivery in bulk, you get a better price per unit. So that's what I'm moving towards. We've got an extension from the Division of Water for our trial, and knowing that we've been working to kind of finalize and get some plans. Kind of been doing a lot of research too on where the chemicals come from. Visited Bowling Green's wastewater facility to see how they're set up and what's working and things they would do different. I always like to do that, talk with other people who've made the switch and what are your lessons learned. And Kentucky Engineering Group has provided this service agreement for the design, and then you can see there what their fees would be. They're proposing to help us with our construction administration and then also doing inspection once we award a contractor and coming in and doing those critical phase inspections for that. So if the council would, I would ask that you guys approve us to enter into this service agreement.
So, questions for Jessica?
I have one question, and Jessica, it's very timely that this comes up, and I actually had these questions when this came on the agenda. I was like, Jessica's way ahead of me as usual. But one of the things, you know, in doing some research as far as our incredible, great water system that we have, and you know, and, the looking ahead, the city and Jessica in particular, you know, with our sanitization program that we have with our water and changing chloramines, that's actually a very, you know, very fortunate thing that we have currently. And it's the longer that we can get the water sanitized, the better, which is what this new system does. My question has to do with wastewater, and with this COVID-19 outbreak, one of the things that, you know, currently comes up is how are you handling the wastewater and the waste stream, and then the monitoring of free available chlorine in that treatment process, you know, and make sure that it's not depleted, because you can, you know, in some means transfer that if that system is not enough. So does this have something to do with that as far as upgrading that system or changing to a different chemical, obviously? How do we monitor, I guess, are we constantly monitoring that free chlorine, and if we change to this new system, how does that compare? I guess is my question.
Right. This is specific to our wastewater treatment facilities. And again, making sure that we're killing any bacteria in the water before discharge, and then making sure that it has time that there's not actually a chlorine residual left in the water by the time it gets the streams, because you don't want to have kill any microbiology or what. So we're always in this very narrow balance, trying to make sure that we are killing what we need to and maintaining those residuals, and then also making sure that there's not any left whenever we discharge this. Kind of a short span. This actually is, again, we don't have to do two chemicals, but it does provide, we do back T samples for E. coli, we run E. coli at the wastewater plant. And prior to the switch, we were running a free chlorine residual as well. And that's how you're adjusting your chemicals. Again, always watching, you know, what your influent rates are, your discharge rates are, and adjusting your feed accordingly, whether you've got stuff after big storms sometimes, or it's been really dry. You get, usually spring and fall, you get light turnover. The same thing happens in our wind, so we have to kind of keep an eye on what that does to what we need to treat and for our discharge permit limits. So this does help with that. We still are making sure that we have to meet our discharge permits for your E. coli ratings. We have to make sure that that is meeting that minimum number. And the good thing, this dissipates pretty fast as well, and it's an oxidant. So whenever it makes it to the stream, there's less likelihood for any negative impact to that aquatic life. Whereas chlorine it disinfects really well, but if your pump goes out on you and starts, not calibrating right or starts overfeeding for some reason, you can end up with an issue with the stream. So the Division of Water has been really positive to this transition because again, they think that it is a more environmentally friendly means to disinfect. And we are still following those disinfection guidelines and making sure that any harmful bacteria is taken care of before we're discharging to the stream. So we still have those permanent limits that we're having to meet. And that's one reason I'm ready to pull the trigger on this because we've now had a year and a half of data that shows that we can do this successfully.
Okay, and my question is really three parts.
Okay, what was it?
The second part. Is there any concern, especially with the supply chain interruption, is there any concern of running out of needed chemicals at the water treatment or sewage treatment plant currently?
We've been in communication because again, a lot of the chemicals are ordered almost every 2 weeks. We're getting chemicals delivered to both our water treatment facility. Sometimes the wastewater can go a little longer, depending on what the chemical is and what our flow rates are. But so far, every supplier has been able to meet those supply demands and has assured us that they're following all of the safety recommendations and the distancing requirements. I think there's some policies where people are maybe not coming into the plant directly. They're coming to the door, we're being more careful on how we're interacting with those delivery drivers. But to date, everyone, we've been getting emails and communication that right now they're not having any issue with either manufacturing or the delivering or of our chemicals. So far, so good.
Okay. And the last part, and I apologize for taking some, is our workers that are wastewater treatment, do they have proper PPE and are they wearing proper PPE, I guess?
Yes, because of the nature of being at a wastewater treatment plant, everyone's already very conscientious about proper PPE. And when they always glove up, if they're dealing with hazardous, chemicals. Keep in mind, even the PAA, you don't want to get that on your skin because it can really be maybe burn a hole even through your shirt. So you still have to be very, very careful. It's a step better, less hazardous than chlorine, but again, you still have to be very careful. So again, they're taking samples, they're doing a lot of things already. So they're pretty accustomed to having their wearing gloves. They're not going to be up there handling. We have new microscreens where we're capturing a lot of debris to prevent it from getting into those aerators of the wastewater facility. I remember talking about how important it was because I wanted to improve the safety of our employees and not have them in those john boats on those lagoons trying to derag the aerators, every month. It's just not a very great setup. So again, they're always, even I've watched them just on Friday, changing out these garbage bags at the end of at the headworks, and they're always all gloved up. They're in slip-proof shoes. If they're doing anything, they're just dealing with chemical. Again, they're not having to actually be in it. But the sampler systems are all contained in pulled jugs that are contained within a sampling device. So they're pretty conscientious. I think they're not really having to do much things differently, except with how they're interacting with one another and with people coming in to do general service. Something's breaking, you've got to have a service tech. So.
Nothing having to be done any differently as far as PPE, as far as viral transmission from wastewater streams.
Right. So far, we're not implementing anything else because again, we already are wearing gloves. They wear glasses. If they're down around doing something that could be getting splashes on them, they oftentimes have the paper jumpsuits they wear, just to kind of protect their clothes and their skin. So far, they do a pretty good job of doing that. So I'm not having to really, we're not seeing the need to step that up. We're just reiterating to continue.
Jessica, do they wear masks when they perform any of these duties?
They generally are not in full masks. Again, it depends on what task they're doing. Now, if they are changing over something with respect to hazardous chemicals, and there's pumps and hoses that can, spray or shoot, they're generally have PPE on, but they're not just going to check to make sure things are moving. They're not necessarily wearing masks just to visually look at something. Again, at the water plant, they have always done a lot of that more things because again, it's the chemicals, that they're dealing with. So again, all those processes are being followed, and we're just reiterating to be careful.
Just to kind of follow up on that, though, I've gotten reports from almost all the department heads. Sanitizing is going on throughout the day. Public Works is doing it. Police, fire departments, the girls, ladies at work, are doing it on a constant basis. So
Yes,
I think
And I
everybody-
guess my question is more for looking down the road, if this does ramp up, we all hope that it doesn't, but if it does ramp up, we need to change anything or any of to protect our workers, even, if it's the garbage, truck work, or if it's the wastewater treatment plant work. Is there anything we need to do looking forward, to increase that safety? Maybe what we're doing is perfectly fine.
and we're constantly trying to look ahead at what is going to happen if X happens. What are we going to do? How are we going to handle that? And again, on Friday, when I walked into the Town Creek facility, that place, I immediately asked, who is responsible for cleaning this place? And it's usually always very clean anyway. They do, for such an old facility, they really do maintain that facility very, very well. And I immediately asked, who cleaned this? And can I hire you to clean my own home? Because it was so clean. I mean, everything was disinfected. There was not a piece of paper on the table. Everything was just really, I think that everybody's taking it seriously. And again, we're looking ahead. Truly, there's plenty of space to keep distance away, at the wastewater facilities. They're kind of wide open spaces. You got one person in the lab, you don't really need a lot of other people in the lab with you. But again, trying to cross-train, our real concern is if we were to have an employee get sick or have to be quarantined for 2 weeks because a family member is sick. With only 2 employees at the Town Creek wastewater facility, that really puts a huge burden. And we currently had already experienced retirees and trainees coming in. So we're down to a very limited number of certified operators even to run the facility. So we were trying to crash course train a few folks who might be somewhat familiar with what we do and could pick up on some of those things just to kind of crash course, be an extra pair of hands and help that second person. Again, on one hand, they were at first a little bit leery about that. We're trying to stay away from people, right? Putting someone else down here. But I'm trying to look that next step ahead. With our truck garbage guys and tippers, we're trying to think of ways, can we minimize the time they're sitting together in the cab? Do we drop them off at the shop or go into the landfill so they're not in the cab that long? Again, I don't think we need to be quite there, but we are trying to think of ways as a city on how can we continue to provide critical services to the community and in the meantime still keep our employees safe as we can. So if you think of anything that we might be leaving out, by all means feel free to communicate with me or reach out if there's something that you can think of that might be efficient or proactive or be helpful.
And just so maybe people that are watching and those of us that really understand, this discussion here is on the disinfectant from the wastewater treatment plant. COVID virus 19 update is part of our agenda. So this discussion about asking about the safety of the employees is on the agenda, falling under the COVID virus update. So just so people understand that we're not gotten off topic here. So that's paramount, and that's why it's the number 1 item on our agenda this evening. So, if we don't have any other questions on this particular item, I would ask for a motion to approve the hiring of the Engineering Group LLC to provide the engineering services for the wastewater treatment plant disinfection improvements.
So moved.
A motion made by Councilman Williams and a second by Councilman Jones. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Now I think your meetings for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Jessica.
All the work you're doing these days. Yes. Right, we need Chief Management. So, welcome. The next item is the proposal for a new roof. And I think at the last meeting we requested some additional bids because the item was at that time $30,000 item. It wasn't in the original bid for the improvements at the fire station on John Rowland. Chief, do you want to walk us through these?
I can. You should have 3 bids before you. Swift has resubmitted another bid because Philip Grubbs, our building person from the city, got up on the roof and they actually took a core sample and found out there's more material on that roof than they originally thought. So it's going to be a little more tearing it off, a little more landfill fee. 2 of them, Swift and Tech America, are commercial roofing companies only. They don't do commercial roofs, no shingle roof of any type and so forth. Unlimited comes recommended also. They do a little bit of all different types of roof, residential and commercials. We try to keep it as close to apples as we can. It's hard to email me some questions today on some different things. And hopefully we'll be able to answer all their questions. But one of them has on here the size of the gutter. But one of them put down like 6 inch and one of them put down millimeters, I believe it was. And they both are the same type of gutters, the commercial gutters. Just for what Phil tells me is a commercial gutter is always so many millimeters thick. And if it's residential, it's going to be less and stuff. So everything's pretty much apples to apples. Swift is a distributor and installer for Bardstown. Bardstown will only allow certain people to do their roofs, and they have to go through a certain type of training. And Bardstown actually sends a representative out to verify that the roof is being installed properly.
Maybe I might depend on David and Joe for this. I'm not sure if it's the first bid, which is unlimited, is less expensive one, but I don't, if I missed something, I don't think I see an insulation on that.
It's there. It's actually their insulation standard is 2 inch and everybody else is 1/4 inch and a half.
Okay.
The difference that I see there, and Joe, you may be able to catch me on this, but I don't see where they've quoted or included in the quote the cost of the replacement of the decking. That's the only quote that did. The rest of them did give a monetary value of what it would take to replace per square foot.
And I did contact him, got a price.
You did?
It's $4.
Okay, so it's comparable to, and that's included in this bid, in the 25.
That would be additional.
It would be additional. That's right. Well, but additional at $4 per square foot. There's one that was 6.
One was 6 and the other
That was like 650. Okay, so that was really the only discrepancy I see that I saw on the bids. Actually, the unlimited, as I said, has a 2 inch IPO where the others were 1/4 inch and a half.
He also on unlimited included to replace the, he's calling the 2x4 wood boards around the drip edge. The other guys, that was also part, that was an extra for them if it needed to be replaced. This quote includes that. There's a big discrepancy, and actually, I hope I didn't cross my boundary here, but I've actually dealt with unlimited on several of the TPO roofs, and so I asked him, I said, I didn't talk numbers about this, so there's a discrepancy in these prices, and he felt very comfortable with this quote. And he said, no, I'm fine. So,
You said $4 a square foot?
Yes, sir.
Well,
Additional. additional.
That's if they find that,
If they find
That's
driver.
only if they find drought on it, so it's kind of giving them a blank check if we didn't have that square footage price to replace.
So it's just, the roof is approximately 3,200 square feet, according to this.
I ran the numbers, if you look at, Tech does $6 a square foot, it's 19,200 if you have to do all 3,200 square feet. Whereas with Swift, if you're at 450, then you're at 14,400, so you're about a $5,000 difference there. And it would be even a little less with unlimited with Ford at $4.
It works probably to compare, it would just be very spotty. You know, it would come close to replace it.
And that still doesn't make up the differences in the quotes, right? I mean, that's a huge.
Another thing I like about the unlimited was, I think there's a possible knee wall up there, and they've actually, they got an option there, I think we should talk about, of including that, and then you virtually have a seamless roof. You're capped to the, where now it doesn't.
That's the termination bar we're talking about, right? That's included in the price.
It is, no, it's $1,800. See the very last
The
one.
very last
Okay, covering the wall.
Covering the wall,
Gotcha.
yes. And I think if not, that stops with silicone, and to me, that's just asking
Right.
a problem.
And the others didn't mention even the termination bar.
Right.
And that's actually taking TPO up that retaining wall.
It is.
They don't mention in those other quotes.
So it would add $1,800 to this 29.
Yeah.
Got it. I think that would be money well spent. in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So you all like, yeah, plus the quote, plus the possible $1,800.
I think they have everything that we need in there. I mean, as long as that's covered as far as the deck replacement, and that's a reasonable price on the deck replacement. I'm in favor of that particular one.
Sounds like,
They're
sounds like
very,
it's all
very
right.
professional.
They have
Another question I had was, Unlimited had a 20-year warranty for labor and material. Tecta said the manufacturer's warranty, so I didn't know if they covered labor and material standard or.
Or just material.
Just material. Just material.
It's just material.
So that could be a cost.
So that was the one where they said that the manufacturer had come out and actually look at it and see if they did something wrong, install it, and if they did. That it would be covered.
So who is this? I don't even know how to pronounce that name. Job will be inspected by Muleheim.
That's what I understood, that was the manufacturer of the TPO apparatus.
Yes.
But Unlimited just specifically said labor and material.
That'd be on their labor and material, but if there's a fault with the material, they had to deal with the manufacturer of
Right.
labor and material.
But they would do it.
Correct.
Is there any other discussion or questions on this? If not, then I would ask for a motion to approve one of the three submittals to replace the roof. This portion of the roof at the fire station.
Mayor, if I may, I would make a motion to approve unlimited restorations, the roof replacement at the new fire station on John Round for $25,200.
What about the 1,800?
And plus the 1,800 to include the TPO of over the knee wall.
That takes it to 27.
27.
We're going to have a motion to enter into an agreement with Unlimited Restoration for $27,000 to replace that 3,200 square feet portion of the roof of the new fire station. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Hibbs. Is there any other discussion or question?
Question, budget wise, where does that put us now as far as? We talked about a percentage last week that would allow us for some additional things in case we need them we still within the parameters?
We've met with Keys on it, and they were saying we're about a little over 5%. So far.
Built in 10,
I'm sorry.
did you, I think they would have built in 10%.
Yes, yeah.
And later on this evening, he's got some news, better news on the exchange orders that we had last week, so that's good. That's good. I'll set some of this. So. Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion's carried. Chief, I think we'll just go ahead, since you're still here. Why don't we just go ahead and let you give us an update on the change orders that were, some of which were approved and some were tabled at the last meeting, but I think you've got an update.
Yes, a couple of them that y'all approved at the last meeting. Afterwards, I had a meeting with Keys Associates and Marshberry Cornet up at the job site, and they got heated at times, told them that there were some issues that I didn't feel like we should have to be paying for, that it was our mistakes. And one of them was PR number 13, was the additional steel supports up in the roof rafters and stuff. Keys has said that there should have been a, I guess, e-print type form with the contracting paperwork that was never supplied to them. So it's kind of coming back on the Keys. That totals $3,196. And it sounds like Keys is going to absorb that price, that change order. That was one that y'all approved last time. So we should be get that one okay. Then the other one was $1,465 for additional wiring for the heating system in the bay. We found out that the what was spec'd out in the bid was not what the manufacturer of the heating system sent. It's really, they thought, the manufacturer thought it for some reason that it would be a better system and they shipped it without changing anyone. So Marshberry Cornet is going to get absorbed in the cost of that change order. So that was one that you all approved also. A little bit of money back.
Yeah, and I called Charlie Keys, I think the day after our last meeting, discussing these, and said that we tabled some, we approved some with some reservations. And I think, again, it kind of goes back to what he spoke to about some communication issues that these change orders got submitted directly to us by the contractor without first being submitted to the architect. He said he agreed that he understood why we were questioning. And so as a result, you see that they have agreed to absorb these. So,
I thought those two were ones that we had tabled, not ones that we had approved. The ones that you just mentioned
were approved. We tabled the additional grounding bars in the area. That's not needed, so that will be canceled completely. The plug for the water cooler, that was blocking the water cooler, that's being absorbed and repaired.
so that's weird. That's too low.
Right. So we had approved those with conditions, I guess. Those are 13 and
13, 18.
Okay, so 16, 17, 18, or 16.
That's what our money started out.
It's 16, 17, 18, excluded. Okay.
So it sounds like we've got some cooperation on both the contractor as well as the architect on the exchanges. Any other questions? So that's, several dollars.
Let me say, I'm not.
John, you about to do my math, right?
Close.
way to hold their feet to the fire.
Good job,
Looking for a place.
Okay, anything else, any questions, Chief, on this project? Okay, you're on these change orders. All right, well, thank you, Chief.
No problem. Thank you.
you.
Thank you, Jake.
Okay, I think we need the home, I think. How you would like, would you introduce this project and talk us through the bid tab and per item bids here, discuss?
Sure. So we received this unit price bid for cable TV and fiber construction for in-town. We've talked about for a while now about needing to rebuild the in-town area, starting off with that, and replacing the coax so we can provide additional bandwidth, growth, get on into a system that has a lot less maintenance. So the highlighted items are the things that we basically are heavily weighted, meaning those are the items that the contractors will be doing the most. So the first one is overlash fiber, overlash each additional fiber, delash, relash, delash, relash, additional fiber. So this is basically using the existing plant, outside plant, and adding the fiber to it, and using that as a means to connecting each customer's home to the grid through the fiber network and then out to them. So we had 4 bidders, and out of all 4 bidders, Hutchins Telecom has the best unit price out of all of them, and especially on items that you care about. And so that's the bid that the staff recommends for this project.
And I think the home, you and I talked about this. This is some work that part of which will start the balance of this budget year, and some will be carried over to the next budget year. So do you want to speak to that?
So yeah, so our goal is to rebuild in town over 2 years, starting like Mary said, the tail of this year, going on to 2 more fiscal years. Majority of our plant is aerial, about 92 miles. So that's kind of what this one addresses, is getting majority of the plant getting fiber up, constructing the connections to the home. But yeah, it's an overall 2-year project that we're trying to rebuild everything in town and provide a great option to them to one bid.
So is this bid tab is just for those 4 items? It's not for any of the rest on this bid tab? So they win the bid based on an average, because I noticed there's some of them that are lower. They won the bid based on the average of everything?
Yeah, they're by far the lowest across everything that we care about. They are, on those 3 items that we care about, they're also the lowest, but they also, we've seen their work in the past. They do a good job, so we feel comfortable.
That's what I was gonna ask. I know you've got some like Navy Resources and Team Visual. They got some of the bids, but you're saying because Hutchins Telecom had more cost savings than some of the others that you wanted to award them a whole contract.
That's correct. They're all weighted a little different. The 3 items that are highlighted on the left there are what we're going to be doing the most. And so for the total project, they would actually be coming lower than what we estimated for the aerial project.
Would they be on, they're actually considered a local company too?
Yes.
They do a lot of work for us already, as been a Superior, I think.
Yes.
Both of them.
Both local companies.
Superior's local also.
Yes.
Superior Dairy Hutchins.
questions on this bid tab and the recommendation from cable internet engineer to approve Hutchins Telecom to provide this work.
I want to ask a question just to educate me, please, Nicole.
Sure.
So on the item that is the lashing wire repair, where Super Tech has it at $28,
Yes,
and Hutchins has it at $125.
yes.
Is
So-
that part of this project, but it's just not one of the things that we're gonna use a
Yeah,
lot of?
yeah, there's not a lot of repairs to do, usually just overlash the whole thing. So even though there's a difference there, it doesn't, some of the overall project.
It's not a,
Yeah.
so is it customary to ask Hutchins if we get award them the whole bid to meet the price of Superior or something in the other areas? Or is that not customary?
Usually we don't split those,
Yeah, I don't mean to split them up, I'm just saying, could you take this to Hutchins and say, for this particular item, can you meet Superior's cost? I don't know if that's not customary.
Yeah, that's, definitely, after everything is said, we can definitely come back to us, say, we're not this one. Interesting.
You can do it all of it if that's the case. Because you are,
I don't know if that would be fair to the other companies, though, since if you allow them to come down in price, I mean, you just gotta go
I think
with
it's
bid.
the overall weight of the entire project. The quantities that are going to be used, I think, is where he's coming from. The main ones are Hutchins quote as the it's the least expensive and best one of the group.
Correct.
I would ask for most of them to approve the recommendations for Hutchins Telecom to provide the services for the, how would you describe the rebuild of our existing
Coax cable. We fiber bill.
motion approved.
Some,
Motion by Councilman Jones, is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Hart. Is there any other discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. Now we're down to correspondence. We have a couple of donation requests, and I think you all note that Aaron has updated us that there's $7,000 remaining in this year's line item for our community development grants. So, the first one is from Bardstown County African American Heritage Museum. I think it's Councilman Williams.
Yes, this is, thank you, Mayor. We were gonna bring in a heavier tonight, but Shay couldn't make it. She did want to speak to it, I'm serious. She is really passionate about this museum. Not too long ago, at the Union Church, we were trying to determine what to use the space at the bottom for, and Councilman Shekels came up with the idea of putting an African American museum there, not just Bardstown, but Nelson County. And so we formed a board of directors, of which I'm one member of. And by the way, after I answer some questions and speak to this, when we vote on this, I will recuse myself. I see conflict of interest. But we were thinking of different categories, athletes, religion, education, politics, 19th century, personalities, Black civic organizations, Black business owners, and other categories. And after looking at the display we had in our main hallway, we came to the determination that it'd be better if we had these display shows, because we could in fact change categories, or as we get additional materials, we can change some of the displays. And so we just felt like it would most certainly be a benefit to this community. As far as we know, we don't have anything in Bardstown and Nelson County that really highlights African American contribution. And we felt like it would be an asset to our community. So that's why we're making that request. Did you see the movie that we showed? Oh, well, that's, yes. Oh, okay. But that's her letter and her being here too. Next time I would say. So, you're going to crash. Yeah. She's been working, like I said, hand in hand with us, showing us how to display documents, how we display them for a year, and then you put them in dark storage for 2 years, and showing us how to scan stuff. And so she's very hands-on.
Dixie's.
And
Dixie's
Dixie's
involved in that.
well, certainly she's been up there with us as well. So
Okay, thank you, Coach. Is there any other questions from either Coach or Councilman Shekels on the request? I guess I would ask for a motion then to approve the request from Bardstown Nelson County African American Heritage Museum for a donation of $2,500 for the construction and acquisition of these display cases.
I'd be very happy to make that motion, Mayor.
We have a motion by Councilman Hibbs, is there a second by Councilman Jones? Let the record show that Councilman Williams is going to recuse.
I'm going to abstain.
Saying, is this abstain or recuse?
I think they can do either, whatever they feel comfortable. I don't think they have to like fully leave the room necessarily. I think they just want to abstain.
Okay, so let the record show that Councilman Williams and Councilman Shekels abstain. We have a motion and a second, so all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you all for all that work. It's a great addition to our community. And I think our community prides itself on our history. But we're not resting on our history, but still trying to move forward.
Yeah, we're really good.
You got time.
Yeah.
Most of y'all got a little time on this.
Hope we don't have as much as they say. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then I think it's Councilwoman Hart, you have a request on Bardstown Village.
I do. I've been speaking with Kathleen Llewellyn. They are in need of some funds as immediately as we can get them to them. They're asking for $10,000. They project, given their current situation and the fact that they won't be able to open in the spring like they normally do right away, that they'll be out of funds in about 2 to 3 months. They won't have the funds to pay their utilities, their insurance, their maintenance, and their lawn care. She did very politely remind me that most of the areas around the village is city property. The property where the cabins are is city property. The property, correct me if I'm wrong on this, where the actual museum and the building behind it belong to the Department of Parks. And then on either side, this is what PBA showed today, either side is city property. So obviously we want to keep that property as looking as good as possible. There's a lot of green space down there. And then I just kind of looked at the economic impact of tourism based on 2018 stats that I found online today. And they have, not counting all of their school groups, they have about 10,000 visitors a year. And according to the state, the impact is $68.42 per person. Now, you know, some of these might be also visiting the park, and they're cross referencing, so to speak, both facilities. But if we just look at the 10,000 people times the $68.42, that's something economically that we don't want our community to lose. So I'd like for us to support them, you know, whether we need to split it up into 2 fiscal years or however we want to do it. That's my recommendation.
I wouldn't have a problem Because I know the impact that whole block area, that the tourism, that when we moved to expand it as the years go on. If we only have like a few dollars left in this month, we could take the $4,000 out of this year's budget, 1920 budget, and if it's okay for council, this more than $6,000 out to make sure budget. If we decide to keep the donation request like we have in the past.
Yeah, and then the other side of this is they're also somewhat of a victim of the coronavirus and the closures, that have been done because of the state of emergency that our state and our city and county are all in at this time. So it's putting a little more burden on them than normal. To Councilman Sheckles' question, I think we could have the motion be for $4,000 in this budget year and $6,000 addition upon us being able to put the same amount of money in the community development block grants in the next budget. So I think that's okay, but it's kind of hard to predict today. So I think that one addition of motion. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's why I said everything is according to budget wise. That would work.
That would still leave $500 in our current fund. We have another request from another organization, maybe for something that's not quite as significant as this.
I'm sure they would appreciate it.
Well, I'll make this motion.
We have a motion then to provide $4,000 this current budget year and up to $6,000 in the next budget year, provided that the community development block grant fund is the same as it is this year.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Sheckles and second by Councilman Williams. Is there any other discussion?
Just, maybe I'm way off base here. There's not any other way to be able to find this money somewhere else to meet their needs. We're not going to, they're not going to be able to meet their needs for the budget year. Doesn't appear to be. And just for example, I mean, would our council's contingency fund be considered or not? Could we do that or not?
I think your fund is, I don't recall what the balance is. I don't know if we've taken any money from that. Karen, could you answer that?
The mayor's contingency has 9,000 remaining, and the council's contingency has 10,000 remaining.
I don't think we didn't use our contingency fund at all last year. Either. Just an idea, guys.
Well, I mean, even if you just gave it up to cover this, is this negative net income that they have, is that for this fiscal year? And is this they're going to need at the end of the month? Or
I don't know the answer to that.
What did you say that?
I mean, they've got a negative 4236 here. I mean, I'm assuming it's the 4,000 that we're granting them, that's not even going to cover that. He's suggesting just to add
He
it like
said,
that.
yeah, I think he said maybe we ought to consider using some of these contingency funds
To cover the whole amount?
10,000 now, not wait until the next budget would be good.
Well, I would propose, I mean, just maybe to get them out of trouble with contingency fund and then possibly add the rest on the next fiscal year. Is that what you didn't have in mind? You're thinking about covering the whole amount.
Already give money away for, pledge money for account we don't even have yet. And is that, somebody will say, can I have some of that next year too? And will that create that money?
So what you're saying is take the 4 out of the donation fund now, the 6 out of the council's contingency.
We can take some out of the mayor and some out of the council's fund.
Money is already out. But
Those, we could take
versus that don't come.
4, 3, and 3.
so.
We take a lot of pressure off of that.
We're uncertain whether we have, I feel like we will, but I think since there's 9,000 in one of those funds and 10,000 the other, you could take 3 from one and 3 from the other and add it to 4,000 out of that. full 10,000. So would you want to amend your motion to?
I could amend the motion, this money is already in this current year's budget to take the $4,000 out of the donation from the community donation grant fund, and then take $3,000 out of the mayor's contingency fund, and take $3,000 out of the council's contingency fund, for a total of $10,000, and award that grant to the old Bardstown.
Okay. All right, so we've amended the original motion, and got a motion amended by Councilman Shekels and a second by Councilman Williams. Is there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion's carried. Thank you all. Okay, everybody had a chance to review the minutes of the last meeting. No changes or additions, we'll approve them by unanimous consent. Okay, I'd ask Aaron Bowles, our CFO, to come in and give us an update. Councilman Hart, you kind of talked to me about what we're going to talk about now a few weeks ago, but after we finally got really digging into it, we cleared what both the feds came out and did since our discussion, and also the city of Louisville about perhaps extending the tax filing deadline. So,
And I misunderstood the question that was asked of me. So it's Form 520 is what they were referring to.
Yes, that's on the tax, right? And it's the
Yeah.
annual.
I thought we were just talking about.
I did too. I did too, yes.
Okay, so Aaron, would you talk to us
Yeah.
about what I'm suggesting that we do to follow footsteps of what the feds are doing and other cities are doing?
Yeah. So with the pandemic upon us, on March 20th, the IRS extended the tax filing deadline for all businesses and all individuals from April 15th to July 15th. The city requires all businesses to file a net profit tax return by April 15th of each year, coincides with the income tax returns. So in light of the IRS changes, and given the fact that our net profits form requires a completed income tax filing for processing, I recommend that we follow the federal government and extend our net profits filing deadline to July 15th.
And operationally, you can imagine what to do to the accountants and the businesses to file one without having the other one complete. You almost have to have the other one complete to file accurate net
Yes.
profits tax. You have to have your annual tax. So that's,
Now, do we know how much revenue that generates for us? Would we be okay in our budget?
So with that, if we extend that out, I think no penalty transfers, of course, no, I wouldn't require any extension documents or anything. It's just a general full move of the day. Doing this will cost some of our revenue for the fiscal year. I'd anticipate previous revenue of approximately $600,000 to $700,000. This revenue comes through our occupational license fee line. As of today, that line has received $4.3 million income. That's about 79% of our $5.5 million budgeted line. So as of today, we're outpacing our budgeted projections just due to the fact of the strong economy that's and the growth in payrolls that's taking place in the city. I don't think we're going to see that full drop. I think we still have a good chance of meeting the 5.5 million. It's still kind of up in the air of how this last month unemployment rates are going to affect occupational fees.
it's basically got 3 months, April, May, and June.
Well, those won't be, we won't see those.
Well, you won't see that
until
June.
July.
You won't see June until July, I guess.
Yeah, the April, May, and June just filed in July.
All,
That's important.
there's no monthly, nobody's paying on a monthly basis on the operation license fee side.
There are, yes, some monthly filers, we probably see 120,000 a month for monthly filers.
So,
Well, I got a quick, well, you know, after, even though you backed everything up to July, well, in the next year's budget,
We're gonna
you
be,
can see a figure
right, so,
in the first quarter. In the first quarter of the next year's budget,
yes,
you'll see a bigger increase
right,
because of the.
we're not waiving the fees or the tax, we're just sending them out and it's gonna be put into basically the next fiscal year.
And that was my question. You stated a loss of approximately $600,000, but that's not a forgiveness of tax, that's
Right.
shifting.
Right, out of fiscal years. But our revenue will be increased in this fiscal
And then the first quarter of next year, next budget year, you'll basically be there like that.
year. Yes.
so I think the general fund is where this goes to, so to finish out the final quarter, I think what Aaron was saying that we were projected probably to exceed the budgeted amount, so we probably won't take a full hit on being able to operate, because if you're talking about approximately $300,000 still coming in, that kind of makes sense.
At least, yeah. I think we're gonna be very close ending at 5.5 million.
And we already have one general fund department that has already found $100,000 in savings by postponing some budgeted expenditure to the next budget year. So we're talking roughly there's $400,000 there that still be in play to support the general fund operation in this final quarter. So,
And our cash position continues to increase, our unrestricted reserves continue to increase along with that, so we're safe financially to do this.
So, any other questions or variants? So basically what we're going to do is, I think we're going to make a motion to postpone the filing for the net profits tax until July 15th. And then also we're going to get a 30-day extension on the occupational license fees that normally come due on April 15th. We'll let them come due on May 15th. Again, this is because of the chaos that's kind of affecting everybody, all these local businesses are trying to either survive through these closures and then also pay these occupational license fees and give them a little more time. So,
And the 1 month extension for the occupational payroll fees that are being paid, it won't affect us revenue wise, just it'll still be within the same fiscal year, so this won't have an impact on us. Revenue wise just gives them a little bit extra time to deal with any staffing issues that they may experience.
Do you have a way to notify them? Are we counting on the press or?
Press, we'll post it on Facebook and on my website.
a lot of local CPAs are already asking about it because they got people that are already going to delay their filing because number one, they can give them a delay. Number two, they just got other things in front of them that's more important than getting that.
So should we, or would it be a burden to just send out something individually to the CPAs? I don't know, I'm just asking the question.
It'll probably be fairly easy. We'll do a press release on it anyway.
Like the mayor said, they'll all be looking
Yeah.
Yeah.
for individual
Yeah,
files.
the city of Louisville will have their meeting, I think, a week or so ago, like it's the same thing. We're doing it tonight.
City of Town.
Mayor, do you have the verbiage for that motion, or do we need to get that from Mayor?
I think the motion would be that we are going to follow the guidelines of the IRS granting an extension of filing the net profit tax to July 15th from the normal April 15th date. we're also going to give a 30-day extension on the occupational license fee payment from April 15th to May 15th.
The 30th, April 30th,
Excuse me, April 30th to May
31st.
May 31st. So it's what is net profits, the same as also occupational license fees. So I have a motion.
So,
Motion by Councilman Williams, for a second. Second by Councilman Williams. Is there any other discussion? Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed, motion's carried. All right, and then the next item is an update on our fiscal year 19 audit. Aaron, you want to speak to that?
So I received a draft. I got a copy of the draft on Monday. I still have to complete what's called the management discussion and analysis report. It details out several general operational finance activity items that happen throughout the year. Once I get that finished, I'll continue to review the draft in detail, and the audit will be final. However, we're not going to be able to release it. With this audit and the misappropriation of funds that were discovered throughout the fiscal year, there were auditor comments and recommendations that detailed all the activity that occurred. We've been ordered by the investigators in this case not to release that level of detail that's coming in those comments until further notice. So, with that investigation ongoing, I'm not able to really give you a time frame when the audit's going to be available. But I did want to assure you that I understand and I responded to the auditor's comments, and I've implemented or have a plan for implementation to address all of the shortcomings that were part of the finance area of the city.
In other words, this document is a piece of evidence that they are still meeting prior to, I think, their presentation to. They haven't said it this way, but this is how they have talked about it in terms of evidence, but I'm assuming that it'll be part of their overall presentation to the grand jury. So you don't typically release evidence to the public to review prior to submitting a case to the grand jury. So the audit will be eventually released to the public with our comments and with recommendations from our auditor about fixing some of the problems that existed. So I think that's where Aaron's coming from. We've already addressed a number of the issues that we brought out in the audit, but we can't further request from the investigating police agency that we don't release this this time. And they met with our auditor as well already. Basically gave her the same orders they've given us. Any other questions on that? I mean, it's delayed because of all this, but we have to, I think, respect the request for the investigation to adhere to their request.
And just a general comment, you know, as we go through all of this with the virus, I think we're all concerned not only about our personal finances, but also about the cities that we're elected to represent. So I think tonight, to me, Aaron is our Andy Bashir at 5 o'clock, but he's here at 7:30. So I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, I think you'll hear, we'll find out more as we get the audit released, but also when we get the budgeting, we are still very healthy. I mean, this is a major theft, but you know, the city's still on very sound national footing, and we're in great hands with Aaron being on board with us too.
I feel better just knowing your projections and that you've analyzed everything.
He's a fast study on this stuff. Thank you. Okay, we've already gone over the fire department. I guess, Greg? Next item is our municipal order 2020-04 with the emergency FMLA municipal order. Greg will talk us through this need for making this municipal order at this time.
So last week, the president signed into law the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. And it comes in two parts. The first part is the emergency paid sick leave act, which simply states that if you have any employees that experience COVID-19 symptoms or are caring for an individual with COVID-19 symptoms, or if they need child care, they can take advantage of the emergency sick leave act, which is 2 weeks, 80 hours of paid leave. The second part of the act is the Emergency Family Medical Leave Expansion Act. It is FMLA, basically, and if you need to care for your child during COVID-19, this time period, you get up to $200 a day with a $10,000 aggregate at 2/3 of your pay for however long that $10,000 lasts at. This is in effect until December 31st, 2020. So because of that law, we did a municipal order for the city of Bardstown. Abide by that law now.
That was with guidance from KLC as far as implementing this to be in compliance with the new law.
Right, this municipal order was straight from KLC other than sections
I-
3 and 4 of the EMA Act.
And that does, and that applies to part-time employees also. It kind of makes work for Greg, probably creates like a look back of 6 months to average their hours. And based on that, they'd be paid 2/3 of that. So just like full-time employees, they just get 2/3 of what they average, over that time. And we added this provision that the city is going to continue to be 100% of their pay. So we're going to make up the third to bring them to 100% of their pay. Isn't that correct, Greg?
Yes, and
Just a part-time.
That's for everyone.
for everyone. And we have 2 part-timers and 2 or 3 full-timers currently taking advantage of the emergency for their child care. So we don't have a lot. We do not.
Right now, they'll able to do anything from home or.
We have a few employees currently working from home, the ones that can home, get on computer and get on our share file, do their work from home. We have 2 or 3 of those, but they would not apply to this act. They're telecommuting. We have probably 4, or some that are alternating. We have some that are staying home one day and coming in another day. We have a few that are full-time telecommuting. 3, I think. The 3 that I know of, yes. 3 that I know of, and, one that's staggering, work from home and they come in, the other day, and the other day. So this is basically a required municipal order based on the president's declaration. Yes, sir. Solicited KLC's advice on drafting this. I guess, Audrey, would you read it for us and then ask for a motion to approve?
Municipal Order M 2020-04, municipal order providing for leave under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Whereas the President signed into law the Families First Coronavirus Response Act to assist with the impact of COVID-19, employees may be eligible for additional leave under the law. And whereas to comply with temporary leave requirements, the City of Bardstown is altering its leave policy for city employees. Now therefore be it ordered as follows. Number 1, pursuant to the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act, all employees are eligible for 2 weeks of paid leave at their regular rate of pay for the following reasons. Eligible full-time employees will receive up to 80 hours of paid sick leave. Eligible part-time employees will receive pay based on the average number of hours worked over the last 6 months. The Act allows the employers to exclude healthcare providers and emergency responders from the definition of employees who are allowed to take such leave. Subject to federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation order related to COVID-19. B, advised by the healthcare provider to self-quarantine due to COVID-19 concerns. C, experiencing COVID-19 symptoms and seeking medical diagnosis. D, caring for an individual subject to federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation order or advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine due to COVID-19 concerns. Caring for another who is subject to an isolation order or advised to self-quarantine is described above as not limited to only family members. E, caring for the employee's child if the child's school or place of care is closed or the child's care provider is unavailable due to COVID-19 precautions. Or F, experiencing any other substantially similar conditions specified by the Secretary of Health and Human Services in consultation with the Secretary of the Treasury and the Secretary of Labor. 2, pursuant to the Emergency Family Medical Leave Expansion Act, EFMLEA, an employee that has been employed for 30 days or more is eligible for up to 12 weeks of job protected leave to allow the employee who is unable to work or telework to care for the employee's child under 18 years of age if the child's school or place of care is closed or the child care provider is unavailable due to a public health emergency. The Act allows the employers to exclude healthcare providers and emergency responders from the definition of employees who are allowed to take such leave. A, the first 10 days of EFMLEA qualified leave are unpaid. An employee may either be eligible for emergency paid sick leave as outlined in paragraph 1, or may take other paid leave concurrently with EFMLEA. B, beginning the 3rd week of EFMLEA, an eligible employee shall be paid according to the following. 1, full-time employees at 2/3 the employee's regular rate for the number of hours the employee would otherwise be normally scheduled. The EFMLEA limits this pay entitlement to $200 per day and $10,000 in the aggregate per employee. Number 2, employees who work a part-time or a regular schedule are entitled to be paid based on the average number of hours the employee worked for the 6 months prior to taking the EFMLA. Employees who have worked for less than 6 months prior to leave are entitled to the employee's reasonable expectation at hiring of the average number of hours the employee would normally be scheduled to work. I think there's missing a sentence here though, Gary, because this isn't good. I don't have on my iPad the revised one that Greg and I circulated, I don't think.
Oh, the 3 and the 4?
Yes.
You might have to refresh it.
I can read, I've got 3.
You got it, Greg, because I don't have the part about that they're supposed to get 2/3 of their pay. I did refresh it, sorry.
3, the city will pay full-time employees at 1/3 the employee's regular rate for the number of hours the employees would otherwise normally schedule to ensure that full-time employees continue to receive 100% of the regular rate pay. 4, the city will pay part-time employees and employees who work an irregular schedule at 1/3 of the employee's regular rate, subject to the calculation of the employee's average hours set forth above, to ensure that part-time employees continue to receive 100% of the regular rate pay. C, the city will return the employees to their prior position in accordance with the restoration requirement of FMLA. The city's FMLA leave is otherwise unchanged, and any EFMLEA leave will count towards the employee's 12 weeks of job protected FMLA leave. The executive authority shall determine which employees are eligible for continued work or telework based on the needs and capacity of the city, or all other employees' manual rules shall remain in force. This order will terminate at the expiration of the Families First Corona Relief Act, currently set for December 31st, 2020.
The correction should be in paragraph B2 though, and then the version I emailed to you, I don't know why it's not uploaded, but can I read that section later just to get that corrected? Because it doesn't make it clear, the version that KLC sent didn't make it clear that part-time employees are actually getting paid 2/3 of their average. It makes it sound like they're getting paid the full rate. So paragraph 2B should say, the first sentence should read, employees who work at part-time or regular schedule are entitled to be paid at 2/3 the employee's regular rate based on the average number of hours, and then goes on the same as the rest of that, just to make that clear, that we're not giving you above and beyond your full-time for an additional third.
Thank you for catching that. All right. Ask that the motion to approve the municipal order with the additions that Audrey just made to what you presented in your packet. This order 2020-04. Motion by Councilman Buckland, second by Councilman Owens. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's carried.
I have one question. I know this past the discussion was a little quick. One question is, so this reads, and Audrey, this reads that this would also trigger in the event of federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation order. So if the governor issues a shelter in place, then the sick leave triggers at that point, the way this reads.
Potentially, I suppose, but in most cases, it seems like in most states, the governor has left an exemption for certain essential personnel. You know, so a lot of our employees would not be subject to that. You know, first responders, probably, you know, our guys on the garbage crew, do water plant, electric, those kind of folks. So I think a large number of our city employees, even under those circumstances, because we're providing essential services, would still be correct. Do you think that's correct?
I think that's absolutely correct. It would not include, so government would not fall, would always be an essential.
So if it triggers as an effect of the governor calling for a shelter in place, then how does how does employment figure in? So the way this reads, this triggers the sick leave act if he orders a shelter in place immediately.
For those employees that are subject to that. Our employees wouldn't be subject. We are essentially.
I would anticipate the governor's order would exclude, you know, public sector type of employees, you know, so that it wouldn't trigger that section.
Which you do.
Yeah. As a person.
Sorry, Mayor.
That's all right. Well, you know, the meeting's going a little longer than normal, but as you can see that there's a whole lot of this business tonight is related to the coronavirus outbreak and the ever-changing orders that are coming before us to deal with. So you have to bear with us. E911 agreement, this is something that they've been working on for quite some time, our dispatch board, and I think it's helpful that you can see the old agreement where they highlighted and redlined the changes that are in the new agreement. But, I'll just kind of, I've spent a lot of time talking with Joe Pruitt and both chiefs on this, and as you can see, there's not a lot of substantial change to it with the exception of adding the word county to instead of Nelson Fiscal Court, it's Nelson County Fiscal Court. And there's a lot of deletions of the word a or and so forth. And then a couple of major changes. If you go down to where it's membership officers, there, that language at the end of that paragraph about the interlocal agreement and who is going to chair the board for 2 years. That change there primarily was previously, I think the chairman kind of rotated among all the member agencies, where now it's going to be either the chief of police from Bardstown or their designee, or the sheriff or his designee, as opposed to since I think the main reason behind that is those are the two largest agencies involved, and of course fiscal court and the city of Bardstown are paying the greatest sum of money. So and the expertise that the sheriff carries as well as the chief probably lends itself to being more the chair of this dispatch board as opposed to a member from all the other members to be a chair. That's the major change there. And then towards the end of it, the management control, they wanted to be more clear about who had the authority to do the hiring of dispatch personnel as well as the dispatch executive director of the dispatch. And now there's a personnel committee that is appointed to do that, make a recommendation to the full board, then the full board approves the hiring of the staff as well as the director. So that seems to be the main points, with the exception of some of the other words that have been deleted or just changed. And they've spent a long time on this. And both chiefs and I spent a lot of time. So we think the agreement is a much better agreement than the one that was created when they first went to the, it was formerly called a joint board, which is not a joint, it's a county-wide board, so they've changed that as well. So, unless anybody's got any questions, I think Chief Randall is there, but if you've got any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Does it address percentages paid by city?
Yes, there's a, I forget exactly where it is, but I think we're limited to the lesser of 130,000 or I think 40% per annum.
It's underfunded.
Yeah, it's the lesser of those. That's stayed the same. There's no other questions or I would ask for a motion then to approve the revised interlocal agreement for the operation of the Nelson County E911 Dispatch Center.
So moved, Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Shekels. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Hibbs. Any other discussion? Give David time to. Let's get your gun out of your house.
I'm good, thank you.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, motion carried. We're going to table the fire truck discussion that I told the chief. First said 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said we could do it, but that's more of a budget level discussion anyway, so we don't need to get into that tonight, so we're going to table that. And the last thing you might wonder, why in the world is it bringing up the 2020 census with everything else that's going on? But the census just happened to be released literally days before this thing really hit us. And so I along with several people in the community, we met with the regional person in charge with the Jan Johnston is our local person who is overseeing the 2020 census. But the point of bringing this up tonight is that most everybody should have already received a letter like this to your house. Very few people are going to be like the old days when they came knocking on your door with a clipboard and filling out the door. This is a guideline on how you can do it online. When you get into it, you've got your own little ID number. It takes less than 10 minutes to complete. And you don't have to be real savvy with IT to do it. If you can, there's so many people home right now. Some people have time on their hand. This is a great time to be doing it. I mean, if you can shop on Amazon online or you can handle Netflix, you can definitely fill this out. It's not very difficult. But the overriding importance of this is we need an accurate count for Nelson County. The numbers for the state, based on population, and the federal dollars that are predicated on the accurate count equal $2,000 per person. Now, somebody might say, well, I don't get a check from the federal government for $2,000, but when you aggregate all the federal funding that comes into Kentucky right now per capita, it equals $2,000 per person. So you've got road funds, you've got funds for schooling, cities and counties get funding, you've got a lot of the programs like unemployment, all those things. So it's imperative that we get an accurate count. So I can't emphasize to everybody here and all those that are watching this meeting tonight to please take the time to open the mail and complete the census, because it's vital to the operations for so many agencies here in Bardstown and Nelson County. I did it at lunch the other day, and I had the news on. I did this at lunch, ate my lunch. I think I had a newspaper laying there too, so it's not that difficult. Of course, my household's only 2 people, so that makes it pretty simple too. So, but they really want to get this done, I think, by the end of April, so it's imperative that we fill that out. So we'd appreciate everybody's cooperation.
I don't know if you can do that.
No, I'm fine with that.
I said a quick question. I don't know if anybody else has been asked about, these stimulus checks supposed to be going out to everybody.
Well, that's not on the agenda, so what could we talk about?
All right, this is special meeting.
Yeah,
we're-
Special meeting. Okay, I'll say it.
We were required to call a special meeting to comply with the.
Because we had to do it around.
Okay.
All right.
But Mayor, since the census is on the agenda, we filled out ours today.
Thank you. So it's 2 of us.
Yeah, my day too.
All right. Hope the rest of the community and the city of the county will do so. There are no other things. Of course, we can't bring up any new business or old business. It's not on the agenda. So ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion by Councilman Williams and a second. Second by Councilman Hart. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion carried. Thank you all for your time this evening.